Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, let's turn our attention to that really big question that everyone in India is asking. The hopes of the nation riding on the cricket team, the anxiety, the stress, the fear factor. You have to be in India to really experience it, because India's in a World Cup final once again, and that is something that really matters in India. Why does it really matter? Well, we're going to be telling you that in a couple of minutes from now. But first, let's just set up the stage for this. Remember, two cricketing giants will now be colliding once again in the biggest game of them all, the World Cup final. In this clash of titans, the men in blue are set to rewrite history as they face the five-time champions at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. Now, this, of course, 2 decades after the heartbreak in Johannesburg in 2003, where India succumbed to the mighty Kangaroos. And so this is not just a match, it's a chance for redemption, a chance for revenge for 2003. The fans actually out there calling this very much a revenge clash. But really, I think what matters is lifting the World Cup trophy. Now, what does make the showdown even more thrilling is the reversal of roles. In 2003, Australia dominated with an impressive streak of 10 consecutive wins leading to the final. Cut to 2023, and it's India that's on an identical, remarkable winning spree with 10 victories under their belt leading to the final. The similarity, uncanny, and it adds a layer of excitement that only the cricketing gods could really script. Yes, it feels like deja vu, reminiscent of the 2003 finals, but this time the script has flipped. India with this team, India with this stellar performance, India with these 10 victories in a row, rightfully claim the tag of favourites. But in the world of cricket, one should never underestimate any opposition, and particularly if it's the Aussies. Hey, you were to ask me, you were to ask any Indian, would you be somewhat scared about facing the Australians in the final? And the answer would very clearly be yes, you'd be scared of it. Which is why I think so many Indians were cheering for the South Africans in the semi-final. You don't really want to face the Aussies in a grand clash, in a high-pressure situation. Because the Australians, well, they're no strangers to the grand stage. They're entering the record 8th World Cup final. Testament to their cricketing prowess. So the excitement, the tension, it's palpable all around. The hopes and the prayers of an entire nation rest on Team India's shoulders. Victory here will not just be a win, it will be the end of a long drought, a celebration that will, I think, echo in India's sporting history for years to come, and a celebration that we'll certainly be seeing out here if India does actually win the World Cup. Otherwise, all of us are going to be in a rather bad mood for a prolonged period of time, because this time we are actually expecting it. We are expecting India to win. All right, so what's going to actually be happening on Sunday? Well, let's just we have a panel of really great experts, special experts for you. Gulu Ezekiel is joining us, sports journalist and author. Dav Watmore's with us, of course, Australian cricketer, no stranger to the big stage. Also the person who has, in a sense, scripted heartbreak for India at one point. We will never forget, Dav, that 1996 semi-final. You were the coach of the Sri Lankan team that time. A toss that, at a pitch that we will, I think, debate about at great length. So I'm going to get your views on all of that. Mudar Pathria is also joining us, former professional cricket writer, but he has a particular take on why cricket is so important in India that I would like to start with. Also, Digvijay Singh, WION Sport editor, is there in Ahmedabad and is going to be telling us all about it. But before I come to the rest of you, Mudar, let me just start with you. I said that the hopes and the fears and the anxiety of an entire nation rest on what happens in Ahmedabad on Sunday. And I know a lot of people will say, hey, it's just a game. Why do you guys in India get so exercised about a game of cricket? And I have to say, Mudar, I think you really expressed it very well in one of your recent articles, The Republican of Cricket, why cricket means so much to India. I'm just going to give you my take. Let me see how much of this you agree with. Cricket matters. Cricket matters because it's not just a sport. People will say it's a sport that only a handful of people play. But let's remember, cricket is now a sport that is the second most watched sport on this planet after football. So it's a big game, it's a big sport. And in India, it matters even more so because cricket is a way of uniting the entire country. When India plays cricket, and it's not just now, it's been the case for 20 years or 25 years or 30 years, it's a one time when all Indians get together. That's an important factor. And factor number 3, cricket has become a means which is a symbol of a rising India, an aspirational India. And you can see that from the people who are playing the sport and rising in that sport from every level. But with that, let me get you in on that point. Is cricket just a sport? Or would a World Cup victory mean a lot more than just a victory in a sport?
Cricket is not a sport in India, it's a deen, it's a dharma. It's our existence. You know, you look at the individual, maybe a widow, living in rural India, in a remote little hamlet. Cricket is a part of her existence as well. It's a part of her identity because she identifies with the people, 11 people playing, and she feels that if they win, she has won. And I think there can be a no bigger statement. If a political party wins, it may not be her winning. But if the cricket team wins, that woman, anonymous, faceless, nameless, marginalized, disadvantaged, considers it to be the victory, a victory in her life. And I think that's why cricket is not just a sport. I would have called it a national opium. It's more than that. It's a deen and dharma and of this country, of a timeless civilization.
And with that, let's just add to that level of feeling, you know, it's a symbol of rising India, as I was just saying, the symbol of aspiration, as a thing that actually all 1.4 billion people get behind. You also have to look at the Indian cricket team itself, right? From Rohit Sharma, the number of, there used to be a time when cricket used to be the elite in Mumbai or Delhi who would be playing for India. Now it comes from everywhere. The people are going out there and playing. They represent every Indian because every Indian feels that they do have a chance to make it to that hallowed cricket team.
So, you know, it's not just the fact that the team is geographically dispersed, aggregated from differently dispersed geographical locations. There is one other element that most people miss. Most of the members of our cricket team have come from very struggling economic classes. Rohit Sharma, when he got a scholarship, he had to go for a free ship because he couldn't afford getting into a better school because of cricket prospects. The man is actually leading the Indian side today. And I think that Jasprit Bumrah, father passed away at a young age. Virat Kohli, father passed away at a young age. You name one cricketer who's actually not come from disadvantaged circumstances. And I think these are stories of grit. It's not just middle classness. It's middle class grit. It's our story. And I think that's where the association is. That it's not somebody else's story. It's not somebody who was a Nawab and, who probably came from a princely background. This is our story, the heartbeat of the largest middle class or middle income population in the world. And that's why cricket is more than a sport, it's a religion. Because it's us.
And it's also a symbol of unity, as I think you wrote in your article. Like, you look at it, religion doesn't matter, community doesn't matter, caste doesn't matter, region doesn't matter. When you see a Shami or a Siraj running up there and you see 80,000 or 140,000 people chanting their name, those factors, and actually it's not just now, it's always been the case. This is one area where all of those divisions and cleavages just don't matter. Not when it comes to cricket.
I agree. I think this is a glue. In fact, I won't even call it a glue, I'd call it a super glue. It holds the country together. It binds the country together. I'm just saying, and I'm being maybe a little, humorous here. If we were to be invaded, cricket and the army, these are the two great institutions that get India back on its feet in 10 minutes.
All right, as a symbol of unity. Well, now that you've set up the expectation, now the expectation wasn't high enough, Mudar now making it clear that it's about, a lot more than just a game, it's more than a sport, it's more than
national izzat, yaar, it's national izzat.
National izzat.
Nobel Prize winner comes out of India, it's good. But when we win in cricket, it's national. For that one day, or maybe 48 hours after we win this tournament, if we do, I think every Indian will walk at least 12 inches above the ground.
Okay, so
sabka height badh jayega.
Okay, so is India going to walk 12 inches above the ground, or is there going to be, hanging heads when it comes to Monday? Let me start by throwing that question to Dab. Look, Dab, fond as I am of you, and it's great, we've admired you so much. This is one occasion where I hope that on Monday morning I'll have a smile on my face. I know you're going to be cheering for the Australian team, it's but natural. But who do you think is going to win?
No, that's quite clear to me. I've always said that I would not be surprised if India takes the trophy without losing a game, right from the beginning. Because man for man and the team that they had, despite that injury to Hardik Pandya, that team has got stronger, you know, and they're playing the sort of cricket that is worthy of world champions. And it's getting stronger, it's getting bigger, it's getting better. And what I saw yesterday with the second semi-final, the team that earned its right to play on Sunday against India, I don't think there's going to be much petrol in the tank, you know, like they played their final on Friday, so on Thursday rather. So I'm pretty sure India will be winners, worthy winners.
You know, in this country, I certainly hope you're right. I have to say that. I'm not going to pretend to be unbiased out here, which normally as a journalist I try to be, but it's very tough to be unbiased on this particular occasion. And I certainly hope you're right. But, you know, never write off the Australians. We've seen where the Aussies have bounced back from, including, by the way, in this particular World Cup. Let's not forget, they were the bottom of the table after the first couple of matches, and then they're out there. Never write off the Australians, and there's some fantastic talent in that Australian team.
And they're no strangers to playing in finals, semi-finals and finals. That's a given, and you said that yourself in the intro, and we understand that. But I'm giving my subjective view on what I see, given the conditions and that exist in India, particularly in Ahmedabad, and the lead up to this very important match. I think India for sure, and I think it may be a little early finish.
All right. As I said, I'm certainly going to hope you're right. Gulu, your take on this. Would you agree with what Dav said, that India do start off as overwhelming favourites, so all of us should dial down the anxiety levels that we are feeling, and that Mudar is just sort of whipped up a little bit further?
Yeah, Vikram, I mean, there's no question that after all, India has won 10 matches in a row, and all of them have been relatively facile victories. So when you look ahead to a match 24 hours or 48 hours before, you can say who is the favourite and who is not the favourite. But the point is, as Dav will know very well, you know, it's a one-day match. It's not a test match. Whether it's 20 overs or 50 overs, in a one-day match, there's very little chance to come back and go on 50 overs. So it depends on the day, how the players react to the pressure, what the conditions are, who wins the toss, the pitch, the weather. There's so many variables which we can, you know, sit around and discuss till the cows come home. But once the toss is done and once the players on the field, whether you've won 9 matches in a row, or 10 matches, or 3 matches, or 5 matches, or whatever the past records of the players, is irrelevant.
Okay.
So if you say favourite, yes, India favourite. But if you say, you know, dial down the tension and let's kind of take it for granted. I mean, nothing can be taken for granted. I know you didn't say that in so many words, but there'll always be butterflies in the stomach.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why those butterflies in the stomach come. The butterflies in the stomach come because, you know, we know that it can be a bad period of play. 12 balls that go wrong, half an hour, one bad half an hour session, and that's it, that dream can go away. It's happened in the past, which is the reason why all of us, I think, get stressed about it. But Digvijay Singh, you're now there, WION Sports editor, live from Ahmedabad. Tell me, we heard about the conditions, we heard about the atmosphere. There are going to be 130,000 people in that stadium behind you. Obviously a lot of pressure, a lot of crowd support. What are you also hearing about things like the pitch and the conditions?
Well, I think just drove in here, so I can already see the enterprising Gujarati, you know, outside the main gate of the stadium, the India jerseys, most of them Virat, they said selling their flags. All that is happening. The Indian team about to come in for an optional practice session as well. But just talking about the conditions, I was here for the Pakistan game. And I told this to Dav, and he can sort of back me up on this. And I told him that if India get to the final, I don't see India losing, simply because when 130,000 people start making a lot of noise, then it gets very unnerving. We saw Pakistan, Vikram, go from 155 for 2 to 191 all out. That's just because suddenly when Babar got out, that crowd got on its feet. Hardik Pandya played the bandmaster. So all those factors come in. What sort of impresses me about the way India have played, I always thought, like everyone else, that semi-final was crucial. That's where India have sort of fallen by the wayside. But the way they approach that semi-final tells me that their preparation has been right. When you go, we've covered this World Cup extensively. When you look at this World Cup across the other teams, the way India have prepared for this World Cup, no other team has, and that's why they're in the final. Australia have won 8 straight, but they haven't put together a very convincing performance. Even the game against South Africa, there was a point where Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc were there, and we thought, hang on, South Africa are winning this. So India just need to turn up and do what they've been doing well. And as Dav says, it could be an early finish.
All right, let me just ask you about the pitch, because sometimes pitches do make a big difference. I mean, there are times when a pitch doesn't matter. What are you hearing? Turning track, will India go in with that same 11 as they've been playing all this time? Or do they think, Australia, maybe some weakness against Spain, let's get in Ashwin?
Yes, that's exactly what Dav and I were talking last night, but we don't think that India are going to change their 11. This is a team, they've stuck together. The point for them to change that 11 was against Netherlands, which was effectively a dead rubber, but they still played their 11, and that's what both Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma said. That this is the team we believe will win the World Cup and we'll go all out. As far as the pitch goes, there are 2 pitches over here. And there was a lot of controversy about the pitch, but I don't think the Indians care too much right now. We'll know from them once they come in here in about an hour what they're going to select. But there was a lot of talk about the Mumbai pitch sort of being a used pitch. They still got 700 runs in that game, with India scoring 398. I just think that India, across all positions, they've got a very good batting lineup, and the roles are clearly defined. Dav will be able to elaborate more on that. And the bowling has been spot on. Even a day where someone like a Bumrah, for the first time in this tournament, goes for runs, you have others chipping in, especially someone like a Shami.
All right, Digvijay, we'll watch that. Dav, do you think the pitch really going to make a difference, or not too much?
It can do.
It's going to be like 1996, where for some bizarre reason, which you must have been very happy about as a coach, India decided to chase.
I mean, that pitch in 96 in Kolkata was a beautiful looking straw-coloured pitch. And for all intents and purposes, you had to bat first on that. So we were, extremely lucky.
What do you think is going to happen in the pitch here? And what would you say, bat first, bowl first?
Yeah, in Ahmedabad, there's a red clay and there's a black clay, depending on which way they go. The red one tends to sort of spin a little bit more. The black clay is a little bit more softer and sort of placid, very little for bowlers. So I think it may be on red, but we'll have to wait and see. It doesn't really matter, I think, in this case.
Doesn't really matter. Gulu, would you agree with that? Does it matter? Does it really matter in this game who wins the toss? Is it a turning track or not a turning track? And would you make any changes to the Indian team at all, or just stick with what's working well?
Again, as far as the Indian team is concerned, one factor is that we are on a winning combination and a massive streak. So perhaps they don't want to change the winning combination. But not being in Ahmedabad myself and not having seen the conditions and obviously not seen the pitch, it will have to come down to the team management on the morning of the match or perhaps the day before to decide whether to include one extra bowler, a spinner or not. So I think that's a 50-50 call. The concern is that with 5 specialist bowlers and no backup, if one bowler has an off day or heaven forbid gets injured, then it's going to be very difficult to complete the quota. So that may be, with Hardik's injury, obviously we lost that balance. That may be one factor, but I mean, sitting here, I feel that we'll go with the winning combination.
All right, Mudar, last word for us as we look forward to what's going to be a lot of drama, a lot of tension, possibly a lot of heartbreak, and if not, then lots and lots of celebration.
I remember speaking to Mike Horn in 2011 after we had won the 2011 World Cup. And he said he had worked with the Indian team in mental conditioning. But there was one seminal moment when he felt that the Indian team would win. So I said, which was the moment? He says, when they decided that they did not want to see the pitch at the Wankhede on the morning of the match. That seminal moment, he knew that this is a team that's going to win, because the team had concluded that it was irrelevant. The same pitch that would be given to them would be given to the other team. And effectively, both were on a level playing field. Sorry for the pun. But effectively, it meant that give us any condition and we'll make the most of it. Whatever it takes, WIT, whatever it takes, we'll win. So effectively, this thing about pitch, composition, team composition, conditions, effectively are available and they are applicable to both sides.
Right.
So for me, it is irrelevant.
I think that's a really good way to sum it up. Win on all counts, and hey, let's face it, this is not an Indian team that requires spin or a pitch that is turning. I mean, the real bowling strength.
Absolutely.
After all that we heard about that pitch in Mumbai, Shami took 7 wickets. And how many wickets did a spinner take in that? So go in there and win no matter what the pitch is. And that's certainly, I'm going to leave it here on that note on this episode of the India Story. Hopefully next week we'll be back here on the India Story, reporting on lots and lots and lots of celebrations all across India after Sunday evening. And I will buy you a drink in case, in case India does win. It's not Australia, so we will help you in drown that sorrow.
Thank you, Rick.
But thank you so much for having been here. That's all we have time for on this episode of the India Story, but we'll be back again next week.